this is the classic, skipping meals. People want to start losing weight, so they skip some of those meals. The more you skip, the slower your metabolism gets. I see it all the time. It's probably the most common thing. It makes utterly no sense, and I understand that. But in essence, if you want to lose weight, just common sense, you say, well, I'm not going to eat as much. Unfortunately, the negative part of that is the less you eat, the more your body's going to hold on to every last calorie like it's the last one. You can go into that evil starvation mode. Your body's just going to hang on to every calorie like it's the last one. And it's going to hold fat on like it's the last remaining thing at all. So it's really important to make sure you don't skip meals. It makes no sense to eat more and lose weight. I know it. Suck it up. Live with it. Accept it. It's the way it is. And myth number 2, your metabolism is genetically programmed. I see this one all the time too. People have been like, well, I've been heavy my whole life, and there are limitations to what you can and you can't do, but there's no reason why you can't optimize where you're at. You can always make it better. And if you're doing all these, you could be the most in shape person and have a horrible metabolism because you're not doing anything to make yourself, to optimize your metabolism. And the exact opposite is true as well. You can be working yourself to death, and unless you're doing some of those other little things, which I already mentioned a few, and I'm going to go into a lot more in a second, you're kind of just, you got to optimize what you've got. And you can't use that excuse, well, it's just my metabolism is slow, I've always been this way, it's just the way it is. You'd be surprised. Your metabolism might not be as slow as you might think, and there's a couple ways to measure your metabolism, and I'll go into that as well. And I think you guys might have an interest in that. Metabolism, your master key, and this is just basically going through some the basics of nutrition and the building blocks of nutrients. But your body's just using oxygen to convert food into energy. It's a very simple process. Well, simple for me to talk about it, but it's not so simple when it's actually going through your body. And you're basically, any energy that you're going to be taking in is either going to be used as fuel to actually move and to get around, or it's going to be stored as fat. There's no other options. It's fat, or it's actually being used to actually move you and to actually promote energy. There's 3 main food nutrients. I'm going to go through these real fast because I'm sure you guys have heard these before, but there's a carbohydrates, which are your body's main fuel source, and there's 4 calories per gram. Now, the thing about carbs and protein, which I'll be getting to in a second, your body can only store so many of these. If it gets too many, it's either going to convert them into fat and store them away, which your body can store as much fat as your body can handle. Your body can't store carbs or protein. Unfortunately, it can save to your heart's content of fat. And protein is basically for building and maintaining body tissues. And that, once again, has 4 calories per gram. Not very exciting. But the fats, they have 9 calories per gram. So they have the most energy involved with each gram. So your body knows that, and it starts to hold on to every fat gram like it's the last one it's going to get. So when you starve yourself, that's what your body's holding on to, is the fat. It's going to burn other parts. It will burn your muscle. It will burn all kinds of things to try to preserve fat as much as it possibly can. And I wrote this big bold here. I'll read it to you because I think it makes a pretty good point. But the bottom line of understanding your metabolism is this. Your metabolism is the most powerful tool you'll have for smartly and effectively training your body to achieve your health and fitness goals in the fastest way possible. It's the engine, and without the engine, you're nothing. And you have to address your metabolism. And this is the nuts and the bolts, the most important part, is how to fire up your fat-burning furnace. What do you do to fire up your metabolism? This is the perfect world right here. So don't get too excited if you're going, there's no way I can do any of that. It's all baby steps, but this is all the process. This is the perfect world once again. 5 to 6 days a week of aerobic activity, 30 minutes in duration. And don't get too freaked out. I have a full-blown exercise routine that you guys can download that I'll have the website on here too. So I want you guys to come away with something. So if you're coming out here not remembering a thing I said, which could be okay, but in essence, just know that somewhere you can just basically write it down. The email's in here, so it's going in here on the website. And you can get a full-blown workout routine, strength routine, stretching routine, and a cardio routine too. So you guys have something to come away with, because I want you guys to, I was going to do these exercises for you, but I know you guys would look at me glassy-eyed and do it. What the heck is this guy think he's doing? So I get a little too excited sometimes to give away a little too much, but I want to make sure you have access to that. So if you leave here today, I want you to have a routine that you can do. So basically, 30 minutes in duration, like I said, you can play around with intensity, but mix it up. It's really important to not do the same thing over and over and over and over again. The higher intensity burns more calories, lower intensity burns more fat. And this is another big old, I don't even know what this is, but a controversy. If you can work harder and burn more calories in a shorter amount of time, why would I walk 45 minutes at a nice casual pace, even though I'm burning fat as my fuel source? It's all calories in the end. It all means how many calories are I going to burn. So if I can burn 300 calories in 20 minutes, or if I can burn 300 calories in 50 minutes, I'm going to get the heck out of there as soon as humanly possible. And I know most people aren't going to enjoy themselves walking on the treadmill, so I want to get them in and out as fast as possible. 3 strength training workouts per week. Preferably, you want to get a good upper and lower 3 times a week. You want to get about 8 to 12 different strength training exercises in, 2 to 3 different sets, each exercise about 15 to 20 repetitions. And you want to allow 1 to 2 days of rest between the strength workouts. Like I said, don't freak out about all this, I'm going too fast, but I have a full-blown routine for you, so don't get too concerned. You want to target the large muscle groups with compound movements. You want to change the exercises every 8 weeks, because like I said before, your body will adapt to a routine. So you've got to constantly keep changing. And it could be just changing the order, it could be changing the exercises. There's so many things you can do to play around with it to make it more exciting, to make sure your body adapts. Getting the 5 to 6 small meals per day every 3 to 4 hours. And the big thing here is the metabolic assessment. There's only a couple ways to really get to test your metabolism. One, you can go to the doctor, you can draw blood. And he's not going to really find out exactly what your resting metabolic rate is, he's just going to find out if you're hormonally deficient. And some people might be on Synthroid or some kind of medication that actually speeds up their metabolism, which does happen. There are medical cases, your metabolism is slow, so they give you some Synthroid to actually increase it, which is a medical condition. It's treatable, it's medication, and life happens. I hate to say it just takes a little bit longer to see results, but it does happen. But basically, there's some pretty cool stuff, and that's why this little lovely box we have over here is. And it's pretty cool, and it's pretty high-tech gizmo over here, and we're having a little contest to try to name it, but I haven't really quite come up with anything too much that I like it. But in essence, you can measure your resting metabolic rate. And when I know what your resting metabolic rate is, then I know what everything is, because then I know what your physical activity level is. I can't measure your digestion, but I have equations to equate that into. So basically what's cool about this is you kind of just breathe into this tube and this little core. Yeah, I can tell. Bonnie loved that this morning. She had it just today. But basically you breathe into this, and it's measuring the exchanges of oxygen and carbon dioxide. And it can be 10 minutes, it can be, in Bonnie's case, 20 minutes, which I think you really enjoyed.
Loved every second.
I knew you would. But basically it's really cool because it measures exactly what your resting metabolic rate is. And what's cool about this whole little system is there's software in here that basically tells me, after we put in your resting metabolic rate, I put in your weight, I tell you how much weight you want to lose or gain, whatever the case may be, it spits out like 7-day meal plans. Because it knows exactly where your resting metabolic rate is, which it equates it into, and then I can easily punch in your exercise routine. It's really pretty clever, everything it does, and then it creates like registered dietitian created meal plans, 7-day meal plans. It doesn't just say eat lean meats and fish. It gets hardcore and gives you a 7-day spit out of brand name, the food, everything, and the exact amount, the exact content, and the brand. It's really, really cool. And you can measure your resting metabolic rate. So I hear this all the time. I think everybody says, well, I have a slow metabolism. I go, start breathing. Because it's not as slow, and Bonnie was the classic one of those. I have a slow metabolism, and I go, start breathing, and it was a lot higher than most. And most people assume that. They just have a slow metabolism, and it's not usually the case. So this is a really cool thing that we have. It's actually really neat, and it's a great little assessment, because then I know how many calories I need to burn for cardio, how many days of strength training should I do. So it really gives me a huge amount of information.